Happy birthday, Mom! That's your cake! Happy birthday.
Actress, producer, and singer Rita Wilson has appeared in over 60 films and television shows. A passionate Greek, Rita helped bring My Big Fat Greek Wedding to the silver screen, which became the highest-grossing independent film of its time. Rita and her husband Tom Hanks live in Los Angeles, just 10 minutes from Rita's mother.
My mother is Greek, and my father was born in Greece. But at some point, as a child, my dad moved to Bulgaria. My brother and sister and I seem to know so much more about my mom's side of the family. She was much more eager to talk about her childhood, her past. And yet my father, when we asked him about his history, it was one of those things where you don't really talk about it. My father passed away about 2 years ago. There's a part of my dad that myself and my family, we've never met. I think he had some physical pain as well as probably emotional pain. We knew that he had been in some kind of a work camp, that he escaped from that. But from birth to late 20s, when he came to the States, all of that stuff is just sketchy. It's almost like drawings that were started but never completed. Whenever I think of researching a family tree, usually you're trying to find something past your grandparents and further back. But this is so much a part of my own personal history, and this is such a recent past. To be able to fill in the blanks is going to be really, really wonderful. Whatever drove him to leave Bulgaria, America really was the dream. And once he got here, that's sort of where his own history, as far as the family goes, began. My dad was a Muslim. During the Ottoman Empire, people in this area where he was born were asked to change their religion. If they were Christian, they were to become Muslim. And there are still many Muslims living there today. His name that he was born with was Hassan Halil Ibrahimov. But once he became a U.S. citizen in 1960, he changed it to Alan Wilson. I just think that sounds like the most American name. My dad was born in northern Greece in 1920. And so I'm starting my search on Ancestry.com and see if we can find if there's any documents related to the village where he grew up. Oh, how cool! My parents' marriage certificate. Joined in holy matrimony, June 10th, 1951, in New York. His first marriage, her first marriage. It says that my dad's birthplace was Oreon, Xanthi, Greece. This is pretty exciting. So I'm starting my journey in my father's hometown, Oreo, Greece, which is commonly called Oreon by the locals. In 1972, my brother and I did a driving trip with my parents through Greece. My brother said that we might have done a drive-by through my dad's village, but I don't have any recollection of that. So I'm really eager to see his hometown. My dad was born here and I think left as a very young man. And it's funny because I don't really remember any stories about his childhood. Here we are, Oreon. I'm getting together with a local named Denise Hachi Halil, who will be my translator and has done a little research about my family for me. I'm hoping for some insight into what my dad's life was like in Oreon as a little boy. Are you Denise?
Yes, are you Rita?
Yes. How
Nice
are
to see you.
Nice to meet you. Where are you taking me?
I'm gonna show you something that I think you're gonna be really interested.
Okay, great. So exciting. Very cool.
This is the house where your father was born.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Would you like to go inside and see?
Dad, I'm home. They're drying out tobacco in here, tobacco leaves. And, oh my gosh, I wonder where my dad slept. These must be the bedrooms. This must be the master, because it has 2 windows and a view. It's mind-boggling. I can't even believe that I'm able to be here. It's like beyond. It doesn't look like much has changed. Oh, wow. We have some onions and garlic. Yeah. I wonder what they made in here and what they ate in here, and if my dad wouldn't eat his peas and things like that. Wow. It's amazing to think of where he came from and where he ended up. That's the thing that's so extraordinary, is I didn't really have any sense of him as a baby or as a young boy. When you only know someone as an adult and their childhood is sort of unknown to you, it's quite moving to be here. It's a real gift. This nowadays it's used for tobacco.
Now it is probably used for storage.
Okay. I still don't know anything about my dad moving from Greece to Bulgaria, though. Denise says that she knows a family that might have some answers for me. More adventure. Hello. Hi.
It's your father's cousin.
Oh, wow.
Rita Wilson is in Orio, Greece, hoping to discover more about her father's youth.
Nice to meet you.
She just met her cousins for the first time.
Cousin?
Hassan and your mother
Cousin? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. Can you just describe a little bit about my grandfather, my father's father, Halil, or my father, Hassan?
Your grandfather.
My grandfather. Oh my gosh. Wow. He looks kind of stylish. I can see so much of my dad in him. Are there any photographs of my father as a little boy?
No, they don't have them.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. What was my grandfather like?
Şakacı şakacı.
He was really funny.
He was really funny? How old was my grandfather?
When he
And how old was my father when my grandfather left this village and went to Bulgaria?
Hüseyin onlar durmamış orada. Smolen'dadır orada.
he went to Smolyan.
Kaçsın Bulgarya'da yine evlenmiş orada değil mi?
O sebepten kaçmış Bulgarya'ya.
Hasan'ı da alıyor, Hüseyin'i de.
He didn't take his kids to Bulgaria.
This doesn't make sense.
Yani durmamışlar,
Ama
girmişler
onlar
geri.
almış mı?
Almış.
He took Hussein, Faik and Hassan to Bulgaria, but they didn't stay at Bulgaria.
Okay. Clearly, we're talking about the same family, but it seems no one can give me a straight answer. The one thing they did confirm was that the next part of my father's story is in Smolyan, Bulgaria, so I'm traveling there next. I've arranged to meet with historian Vanya Stoyanova. I'm hoping that she was able to find anything for me that will clarify when my dad went to Smolyan and what he did when he lived there. We were in Greece, in Oreon. There were so many different aspects of my father's history that were unclear. So I'm very, very excited to hear what you might be able to tell me.
This is a family register. The family came here in the period 1927, 1934.
Okay. I don't read Cyrillic, so...
All right, I'll help you.
Okay.
This first column includes the names of the family, starting with Khalil Ibrahimov, that should be your grandfather.
Oh my gosh, okay.
And then Khalil Khalilov son, Faik Khalilov, Isen Khalilov, Ferhat Khalilov, and
Okay.
this is also Habie Khalilova,
A sister.
a sister to your father.
Right.
And here is your father, Hassan Khalilov.
Wow. If you don't mind, I'm going to do a little mental recap in my head. If he was born in 1920, then he either came anywhere from 7 years old to
12 maybe.
12 or 14 years old. So this census tells me that my grandfather Halil moved here with my father Hassan and my dad's 5 siblings between 1927 and 1934. Vanya tells me there isn't much more information about my dad in the archives until 1941, when he appears in Bulgarian military records. This is his name?
Hassan Khalilov Ibrahimov. It says that he was considered fit for the army and he was directed to the artillery.
Artillery?
Yes. And this exactly shows the unit he was called in to serve. Xanthi Infantry Battalion, called on the 15th of September 1941.
So my dad was 20 years old when he was drafted into the Bulgarian army in 1941.
Yes.
Wow. Oh my God. I've never heard this piece of information before.
Really?
This is just unbelievable.
By the time your father was enlisted in the army, Bulgaria had already sided with Nazi Germany. At that time, Xanthi was a part of the Bulgarian state, and your father was part of this Aegean detachment.
Xanthi, the region of Greece that includes Araio, belonged to Greece in 1920 when Hassan was born. In 1941, with Nazi support, Bulgaria invaded Xanthi and occupied it during World War II. Although Hassan was born Greek, he was now considered Bulgarian. Like many others, he was drafted into the invading army and ordered to enforce Bulgaria's control over Xanthi, his homeland.
Do we know how long he was in the army?
Yes, that was exactly I was going to show you.
Oh my God.
The letter, I think that you can read it.
Oh, okay. From the commander of the infantry regiment, soldier dismissed. Private Hassan Halilov Ibrahimov from 4th Xanthi Battalion, the public prosecutor of the Plovdiv District Court, as he is sentenced to 3 years and 8 months, strict, confined imprisonment. From the 20th of July, I dismiss him from service to undergo imposed punishment. So my dad was sentenced to jail.
Yeah.
Strict, confined imprisonment.
Yes.
This seems extremely harsh, this punishment. But why? What did he do?
Rita Wilson is in Smolyan, Bulgaria, where she just learned that her father was dismissed from the military to serve time in jail. Now, she wants to find out why.
We have the information about the reason of his dismissal in another document, which is the document of his parole.
So what was the crime?
Stealing of 28 siphon bottles and the sum of 5 levs. It's a minor crime.
But
was
he got a
conservant.
3-year, 8-month prison term for stealing plastic bottles and 5 lev, which, what's 5 lev worth today? $1?
It's not a big sum. At that time, the army was expected to demonstrate high morality, strict discipline. So Lots of sentences were given just as an example to the others.
But he was paroled?
Yes, and because he worked in prison, he was pardoned.
After how much time?
After serving 2 years, 1 month and 10 days, it was in Plovdiv prison.
So even though he lived in Smolyan, he was jailed in Plovdiv?
Yes.
I'm confused. My dad told us about labor camps that he was in, but this was definitely a prison.
It was definitely
All right.
a prison.
What a shame.
Yeah.
When you know how kind my father was and how fun-loving he was, I just understand now why he didn't talk about this period of his life. He was anywhere between 21 and 23 years old when he was there.
Yeah. And after that, he probably returned to Smolensk because we see him again. This is the next volume of the family register of Smolensk. So, on the 1st of November 1945, he asked for permission to resettle in Plovdiv.
Why did he have to ask permission?
Smolensk was under military regulation. It was a border zone. Everyone who entered and went out of this zone had to ask for permission. So he decided to go to Plovdiv and start anew.
Yeah. I never knew anything about my dad being in prison. Now I'm questioning if he even was in a labor camp, and maybe this experience of being in prison was his euphemistic way of saying I was in a labor camp. I guess that remains to be seen. While I continue my journey, I've asked Vanya to see if she can find whether any of my dad's living relatives are still alive here in Smolyan. It would be incredible to meet one of them. But in the meantime, since I know my father applied to move to Plovdiv, I'm heading there next. I'd like to find some information about why my dad came here, and I'm hoping the records in Plovdiv might offer some clues about whether or not he was ever in a labor camp. So Vanya suggested I meet with local ethnographer Meglena Zlatkova, who I've asked to do some research on my dad. I'm really glad to be here because the last piece of information I had about my dad was that he had applied to move to Plovdiv in 1945. So I'm here to find out any information about his time in Plovdiv.
Your father came to Plovdiv according to the census. So this is your father, Asan Khalilov Ibrahimov, it says.
Right.
We also can find that there is a woman next to him, Alice Asan Ibrahimova.
Okay.
You recognize the names?
No.
It is his wife.
Oh my God. Do we know when he married her? Like, if he got here in 45, are you gonna tell me the whole story?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here is another book in Bulgarian. And here we can find the marriage certificate. This is a translation for you.
For the year 1945, for the marriage of Alice Agap Markarian and Hassan Halilov Ibrahimov. At 11:30 a.m. on the day 2nd month of November 1945, the signed Vasil Petrov Toskov, mayor and official representative of the people of Plovdiv region. Today they stated that they agree to enter into marriage with each other, and I proclaim them married. Dated October 26th, 1945. That's my birthday, October 26th. Wow. Bombshell. Never knew that. I can only imagine what's coming next.
But there is another document. Here is the translation for you.
For the birth of Emil Hassanov Ibrahimov, born at 2:50 p.m. on the 26th day of the month of December, 1945. The child was given the name Emil. This is the first child of the mother. We see that there's witnesses and an announcer to the person who's my half-brother. So they had him just 2 months after they got married. It explains maybe why they got married so quickly after he arrived here. I gotta ask, is she alive?
Rita Wilson is in Plovdiv, Bulgaria, where she just discovered she has a half-brother and that her father had a first wife. She's about to learn details about the life of her father's first family, a family she never knew about.
For the year 1945, for the death of Alice Agapova Alexaneva, died at 6 o'clock on the 29th day of the month of December, 1945. The cause of death was eclampsia gravidarum. So she died 3 days after the birth of her son.
Yeah, fortunately.
And what is the cause of death, eclampsia gravidarum?
Usually there are some seizures during the pregnancy that are very dangerous for the mother and also for the baby. We have another document which shows your half-brother. Unfortunately, he had no chance.
He was 4 months old.
Mother had a very difficult pregnancy. Probably his immune system was very, very weak. And fortunately, he couldn't survive more than a few months.
It's like my dad, at 24 years old, had already suffered so much. To be, finding some happiness so shortly after he had experienced such hardship and then have it be dashed from his life in such a short period of time is very painful. He never told us about this. I understand that.
Yeah.
It's really almost surreal because when you hear that you had a brother and he had a name, he lived here, and my dad probably was very happy to have a son. There are just weird coincidences though, because he was born on December 26th. I have a son that's born on December 26th. I'm born on October 26th, and I've always thought that 26 was my lucky number. I think, maybe he's like lucky. It brings up so many questions about my dad. He must have had such an extreme desire for a better life. The more information you get, the more respect that you have for his inner strength and his resilience. 5 years later, my dad was somehow in America and had married my mom.
But I want to know what happened during those last 5 years. Did my dad ever escape from a work camp? I'd like to know for sure. So Meglena suggested I go to Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria. She recommended I meet with historian Daniela Koleva, who is an expert on Bulgaria during the communist period and has been searching for documentation to prove whether or not my dad was in a labor camp. Daniela's asked me to meet her at the Secret Files Commission, which I guess holds a lot of records on the labor camps.
My father, he had always told me about these camps, and when I was a kid, I didn't know exactly what these camps were, if they were communist camps, concentration camps.
They were not extermination camps, but they were labor camps modeled very closely after the Soviet model.
In 1944, near the end of World War II, the USSR invaded Bulgaria. Days later, Bulgarian communists staged a successful coup d'etat, making Bulgaria a communist state. Opposition was not tolerated. Nearly 100 labor camps were installed across the country, and tens of thousands of Bulgarians were targeted for imprisonment.
If we turn to his secret file.
Secret file? Is this my father's file?
It is your father's file.
Oh my God.
Everybody who was interned in a labor camp had something like this.
So he was in an actual labor camp?
Yes.
So this report says Hassan Halilov Ibrahimov came to Plovdiv, where he led a wild lifestyle and was even unsatisfied with life in Plovdiv. Hassan Halilov has a very comfortable home where he often entertains very different people and crowds, which often include officers and fallen women. Having in mind the above, Hassan Halilov is considered one of the most important targets of the service. He has been placed under observation.
Yes.
Wow.
That was the way the state security worked. It had neighbors spy on neighbors, friends spy on their friends.
So they're making it up here. God, you couldn't trust anyone.
That's right. And here we have the protocol of his interrogation at the police station.
Do we know what he had done to be brought into the police station to be interrogated, or is that information you're giving me soon?
We will learn in a minute,
Okay.
because here we have the translation for you.
My name is Hassan Halilov Ibrahimov. I met with a Turk from the town of Karnobat. He introduced me to the crowd, and amongst them was the secretary of the Turkish consulate in Plovdiv. So my dad's statement says that he became friends with the secretary of the Turkish consulate in Plovdiv, who agreed to help him escape to Turkey. He arranged for a smuggler who took my dad and some others down to the border. But they were caught trying to escape Bulgaria, and they were detained.
So that's what your father had done in order to be arrested. He just tried to leave the country. Your father was labeled traitor to the fatherland.
And that's why he was sent to the labor camp.
Yes. This is when Hassan arrived at the labor camp, and it's dated 18th of October 1946.
Oh my God.
I don't know exactly how long he spent there, but we know that from there he was transferred to another camp. In this case, these were 2 mining camps.
What would the conditions have been like in these labor camps?
Pretty harsh.
Bulgarian labor camps were notoriously inhumane. Women, children, and men like Hassan slaved endlessly with only meager food and little sanitation. Winters were freezing. Torture and executions were commonplace, and thousands were literally worked to death.
What would keep them from leaving, besides men patrolling with
I think
guns?
you can find out here. It's a testimony by a former inmate in Bogdanov Dal, a labor camp.
Before the winter came, I was moved to the coal pit in Bogdanov Dal. We worked in 2 shifts in the coal pit. The second shift was very dangerous. Several times when I was leaving the pit, I heard gunshots. They put the people that had been marked at the end of the line, and then, at attempted flight, the worst happened. So if you tried to leave, you would be killed.
Even if you don't try to leave, if they imagine that you tried to leave, they kill it, then they will report that this was attempted flight.
Right. It was so dangerous, but I know he escaped. Can you tell me how he did it?
Rita Wilson is in Sofia, Bulgaria, learning about her father Hassan's internment in the labor camps there. She is about to discover whether any documents exist which reveal how he managed to escape.
This is the report of the guard who was on the spot, informing the state security officer on your father's escape.
Oh my God.
This is the translation.
This is really, really exciting to read. The circumstances in which the flight happened are the following. On the 8th of May during the night, I was working the shift from 10 to 6 a.m., guarding 10 detainees from camp. I stood at the side at a spot where it was easy to observe them all while they were working. They emptied the wagons by about 11:30 p.m., and since there was no more work, they sat down to rest while they were waiting for fresh wagons to come. They were sat around until 1:30 a.m. when these men went to get more coal for the fire from the wagons. And it was less than 5 minutes when I went to search for them, but they'd hidden in the dark between the wagons. love this. I looked around from above, but it was dark and nothing could be seen. After that, I gave 5 shots and the militiamen came and spread out to search for them in the fields, but that was all. Hasta la vista, baby. That is amazing. I am...
It's really...
What incredible documents!
It was not such a common occurrence for somebody to escape.
I don't think he had anything to lose after what he had been through.
He became an enemy of the state.
Oh
and
my
now we
God.
have these books which are actually lists of enemies of the state. And here we have Hasan Khalilov Ibrahimov, number 8011. And we have almost 9,000 people
And
here.
what year was this
book? And look at the date. It's 1973. So
Oh my gosh.
It's 26 years after he left the
26
country.
years. Okay, that's incredible. I was probably 15 or 16. I had no idea of anything like this related to my father, but I'm curious what it meant really to be an enemy of the state.
Had he come back, he would have been immediately arrested.
Oh my God. My dad was a lover of freedom. For his first very short time in Bulgaria, he had a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and not by anything that was in his control. Now I'm seeing him as a hero in my eyes.
I'm leaving Sofia now and heading back to Smolyan because I just heard back from Vanya. She was able to find my dad's half-brother still living in Smolyan, and he's 96. I'm overwhelmed to be meeting my uncle Farhat for the first time. He grew up with my dad. They were boys together, and he's the final link to my father's story.
I'm really hoping that he'll be able to fill in some of the blanks about what happened to Dad after he escaped from the labor camp and made his way into the USA.
Just over there.
Hi. Hi. How are you? Oh. It's so nice to meet you.
He's really happy that you're here to meet him and that he lived this long.
Me too.
He lived to 96 so he could wait.
I'm very, very glad.
Много се радва.
Can you tell me what my dad was like when he was a little boy, when you lived in Iseron, Oreon?
Много хубаво, кротко момче, като братя с не уважавали.
Quiet boy, and they always respected each other as brothers.
Okay.
До последно сега, до
Until the
последно
last,
така
they
се
respected
уважавали.
each other.
I believe that. Ferhat, do you remember visiting Hasan when he was in Bogdanov Dal? Did you ever visit him?
Там почва от арестуването.
From state security, they sent your father to the camp. And then 1 or 2 days later, they picked up Ferhat and put him in the camp as well.
He was in the labor camp with my dad?
Yes, both of them.
И отиваме в консуларията, там са видими,
And in the
както се
camp, they
разцелуваме
met.
с
They started kissing each other.
Рита. Там са видими брат на
And they
двама
didn't
брати
know
в
that they were both in the
консулария.
same camp until that point.
Oh my God. When my father escaped, what happened to you?
Мене ме питат, ме викат посред нощ.
They called him up in the middle of the night and sort of interrogated him on why his brother had escaped.
Че брат ми избегал.
They started swearing at him and then sort of beating him with these big sticks. And he couldn't go with your dad because he had a wife and 2 sons that he couldn't leave behind.
Wow.
They've got a letter from Hassan, which they've kept. They've saved it to give to his children. And this is sort of the original letter.
Рита, подарявам ти го, да знаеш толкова години го пазим.
And he would like to give it to you as a present so that you know that they've kept it for so many years.
Rita Wilson is back in Smolyan, Bulgaria, where her uncle Ferhat has just given her a letter written by her father, shortly after he managed to make it to the United States.
It's 1950. Look at my dad's beautiful handwriting.
This is the translation.
Hello, my dear dad and brother. I believe you will be quite surprised to find out that I am writing to you. I came to America on May 4th, 1949. Never in my life so far have I seen such high-paid work as here in America. At nighttime, I go to school and I'm learning English quickly. Once I finish this class, I will start a new one to learn about radio and television equipment. All schools are free here. You can even become a doctor if you have the brains. Girls, all you want. We are living the life. On the ship where I worked on my way to America, I was a stoker, and we almost sank on the way here. My only thought was, once I get there, I will take off, and that's what happened. Please send my distant regards to the old Armenian lady. Tell her that I remember how she used to tell us that she had been to America. And that America is under the earth. I just found out that America is on top of the earth. That's about the best letter you could ever get. On this journey, I've felt that I know my father more now. And part of that is being able to be here and meet his brother. Mm-hmm. Every day of my life, my dad said, God bless America. And in this letter, it said, I made it. And I have opportunities, and that's really what the American dream is, I guess. Learning my dad's entire story has been heartbreaking, but also incredibly illuminating. So now I'm excited to share everything I've learned about Dad with my brother, Chris. He's flown here to meet with Ferhat and share this experience with me. We always had so much admiration for Dad, and the things that he couldn't tell us, I understand why now. I mean, it was incredibly painful for him. Don't know when I'll be back again. When I go home, I'm going to tell my children that they come from an extraordinary man. Somehow in his soul, he said, there's a better life out there, and I'm going to find it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know. Don't make me cry. I've been crying this whole
trip. I can imagine.
This experience has been life-changing because I really got to know my dad as a young man. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. Just by the nature of who he was, he really showed us that anything is really possible. I'm pretty sure that my dad has been with me on this journey, and I can feel him. And so, wherever you are, Dad, I love you.